Yesterday, I woke up and I said to myself, hey, I've got to talk tomorrow. What should I talk about? I think I'd like to talk about seeing the beloved in everyone. And then I got an email from Comcast. Now, if you don't live in certain parts of America, you might not know who Comcast is, but it's the cable company. Nobody likes the cable company. And I'm not going to go into all the details, but basically, my bill went up. I called them up a couple weeks ago. We can give you a new promotional rate and your speed will go down. I didn't like the speed going down, so I called back a few days ago and said, I'd like to pay for some more speed. And the guy said, yeah, you can have more speed. And you're such a great customer. You're a diamond customer. We'd like to give you a free Apple Watch. I said, I don't really want an Apple Watch. He said, no, it's a free Apple Watch. So the Apple Watch came 2 days ago. And yesterday, when I'm about to plan this talk, I get an email from Comcast that we've charged you $12.49 for your first of 24 payments for your Apple Watch. It'll be $299.99. So trying to keep this as short as I can, I spent 90 minutes yesterday talking to tech support, we had the customer support in Egypt about why they're charging me. And I said, I don't want the watch. I mean, that guy said it was free, and now I'm paying all this money, and it got even more complicated. And basically, I was lied to. So I was realizing that I was thinking about giving a talk about loving everybody. And I was pretty mad at this dude in Egypt. Right. Okay. So that's the beginning. And I will say that I grew up in a Danish Lutheran household in which anger was not permitted. My father was a very unusual man. He was never angry, even as a child. In Buddhism, that's thought as a very, very high state to be beyond anger. My father was never angry. I never saw him upset once in my whole life. So that's what I had to live with. And then when I moved away from home, I got involved in psychodrama and therapy and things. I realized that I had a lot of repressed anger. So I've been allowing myself to feel anger and trying to do it consciously. Anger is not good or bad. Anger is a often reasonable response to what's going on in the world. And yet it's a difficult emotion because it's so hot. It's often very sudden. And actually in Buddhism, fear and anger are thought to be the same emotion, because it puts you in the state of completely self and other, that you're really thinking that what you're afraid of or who you're angry at is a solid notion, that there's something out there to really be angry at, really be afraid of. So when I was talking to this guy, I was trying to be consciously angry. And I was going in and out of that. And even in the back of my mind, thinking about loving everybody, seeing everybody as God, the way Anandamai, the way Maharaji would talk about. And to really get to that place of loving everybody, seeing everybody as God, you need an almost unbearable sense of love or devotion to get to that place where we go from regular love to tantric love, to seeing it all as God, to see that what's going on with Donald Trump and Elon Musk or customer support in Egypt or whatever it is, that even that is a manifestation of God. Okay, so it can be very empowering to feel anger sometimes, but that very often we regret acting from anger because we often act in ways that are not very skillful at all and tend to cause suffering. And at the same time, in Tantra, anger transmutes into wisdom. That same strong, sharp, cutting through quality of anger is exactly the energy that allows us to discriminate between ignorance and wisdom, right? There's this cutting through sharp energy rather than kind of floating around spiritually. That strong Vajra-like, diamond-like energy cuts through the illusion. And there's a wonderful story about Milarepa, the Tibetan saint, the guy who was a wonderful teacher of and writer about non-duality. And one day he left his meditation cave up in the Himalayas to go and collect some firewood. And when he came back to his cave had been taken over by all these demons that were bothering him and not letting him meditate. So he thought, okay, there's all these demons here. They're not going to meditate. And he forcefully tried to chase them out of the cave. He started yelling at them, chasing them around. And the more that he tried to get rid of them, the more comfortable they seemed to be there, right? The more unfazed they were. He's yelling, get out of my cave, I want to meditate. So he said, well, that's not working. Let me teach them the Dharma. So he sat down very calmly and he started talking about compassion and kindness, the nature of impermanence, the nature of non-existence of a separate self. And he looks around and all the demons are still there. It's like they don't care about the Dharma. They're going to stay there with no matter what he's doing with his mouth and his mind. So finally, he lets out a deep breath of surrender and says, okay, if you're going to be here, it looks like we're going to be here together. And I open myself to whatever you have to teach me. And at that moment, all of the demons except one of them disappeared. The angriest, biggest, meanest demon still stuck around. And Milarepa came to that demon and put his head in the demon's mouth and said, eat me if you wish. He put his head in the demon's mouth. And at that moment, the demon bows and dissolves into space. So obviously there's a metaphor here. You know, we can chase the demons of anger or whatever. We can try to rationalize, analyze them away. But eventually we need to surrender to the energy of the demon itself. Okay. And one of the things that I always try to remember, and we will get off of anger to love hopefully soon, but I always try to remember that I'm not angry for the reason that I think I am, right? I'm not angry at the guy in Egypt. I'm angry at, and I'm not going to talk about what happened when I had a child or when whatever things, but very often there's something deeper underneath the surface anger that we're really bothered by that we're not really paying attention to. Buddha famously said, holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. Okay. And there's this wonderful Buddhist story where there's a guy going across a river in a boat. He's paddling this boat across the river. It's very foggy. And another boat in the fog bumps into his boat, almost knocks him in the water, and he gets really mad and he starts yelling at the people in the other boat, pay attention, you almost knocked me into the river. And the fog lifted a bit and there's nobody in the other boat. And that's the punchline of life. There's nobody in the other boat, ladies and gentlemen. There is nobody in the other boat. Can we realize there's nobody in the other boat? The guy in Egypt, there's nobody in the other boat. And one person with an interesting name, Keisha Keenlyside, said about anger, may the fleas of 1,000 camels invade the crotch of the person that ruins your day, and may their arms be too short to scratch. Okay, so that's really good anger. That's like when you're feeling that way, hold on to that kind of notion. So talking about anger, what can we do with the anger? What can we do when we're lost in the anger? And the obvious answer is self-compassion. Can we work with anger skillfully, work with the places we get lost in the anger skillfully. And if we look at the Lojong teachings in Tibetan Buddhism, one of them says, all dharmas, all teachings agree on one point: lessening one's self-absorption. That's the spiritual path, lessening one's self-absorption. Can anger inspire us in that way? Another of the slogans is, be grateful to everyone, right? Can I be grateful to Comcast employees? Another one of the slogans is, drive all blames into oneself. And what we mean by that, of course, is not that we're blaming ourselves, but as long as I'm blaming the guy in Egypt, or I'm blaming Donald Trump, or I'm blaming the weather, healing is not happening, right? Can I take can I withdraw the blame out there and be responsible, really respond to what it is that I'm feeling? And finally, one of the other slogans is Tonglen. Can I be willing to do compassion practice for the part of myself that's getting lost in the anger? Okay. Cultivating self-compassion. How do we really do that? First of all, you've got to be deeply motivated to help and care for ourselves, going beyond our first reaction of fight or flight. Can we really be willing? Can we be motivated that taking care of myself, I'm somebody who I am committed to taking care of in this life? The second thing is embodied mindfulness. We need to be grounded and centered to be able to feel strong emotions. And what is mindfulness? Everybody thinks they know what mindfulness is, but it's kind of a tricky notion. Mindfulness is not awareness. We're aware all the time. When we're distracted, we're aware of the distraction. I mean, always our awareness is meeting the present moment. Mindfulness is equanimous awareness of the present experience. Self-compassion is equanimous awareness of the experiencer. And the depth of one's mindfulness determines the depth of one's compassion. So being able to treat yourself as you would your best friend. That's all fairly obvious stuff, I guess, but it's difficult to bring this into practice when you seem like you're in a bad Italian movie with Comcast tech support. As long as we're approaching emotions like they're problems, enemies on a battlefield, how are we going to be able to appreciate their creative play or discover their wisdom? Going back to that Miller Rapist story, he had to go through the demons are enemies. I've got to fight them. I've got to teach them until finally surrendering to the energy of the demons, the emotions themselves. Okay. So in Buddhism, they have self-compassion slogans. I'm not big on slogans, but I like to repeat them because I think just keeping them in the back of your mind can be really useful. This is a moment of suffering. Everyone suffers. May I accept myself in this moment. May I give myself the compassion I need. Once again, this is a moment of suffering. Everyone suffers. May I accept myself in this moment. May I give myself the compassion I need. So when we're talking about the Tantra of loving everybody, seeing everybody as the beloved, we're looking at this process of anger being transmuted into self-compassion, and then compassion, self-compassion being transmuted into devotion to the truth. And then there's this Tantra of being able to see it all as God. We need almost unbearable love, devotion deep compassion to see everybody as God. That the love has to be stronger than what the mind is saying about. I thought the phone was free. You said the phone was free. The rational mind is complaining. Yeah, I mean, I got all these stories in my head. So the wonderful rascally teacher Georges Gurdjieff talked about something called the chief feature, where everybody has this quality where you're so stuck, you have such a hard time seeing it yourself. You can only see it as other people reveal it to you. You have a hard time seeing it, and yet it's the first thing other people see about you. It might not be the same thing. It might change from year to year, month to month. But going back to that Lojong slogan of be grateful to your enemies, when I have this experience with Comcast, and it shows me that there's still this place in me that wants my life to work in an easy way, in a flowing way. Look, I've meditated all this time. Why do I have to spend? I literally spent 3 hours on customer support with Comcast in the last week uh, with various degrees of success. Okay. So, in some way, what we're talking about here, and forgive me if this is a big leap, we're talking about Guru Yoga. You might not have a guru. You don't have to have a guru in India, but Guru Yoga is the ability, is a practice of seeing the guru and merging with the guru, of realizing that everybody is a manifestation of that being. The guru is a very deep, complex, and often confusing concept. It seems like RamDev was in India. He met Maharaji. He has that guru. He's got the picture. There's Maharaji right up there behind me on the bookshelf. But I only have that picture there as a reminder of something much deeper than that. Everybody has a guru, not necessarily in form like that, but there is this quality of oneness, of wholeness that the guru represents, and that some people need this outer representation as a method, as a prod to dive within and go beyond all the stuff that's catching us. So there's the outer guru, there's the inner guru, and there's the big guru. The big guru is everything. Sometimes, maybe on psychedelics or deep meditation, you've had the experience that wherever you look is that, right? That the trees are glowing with consciousness. The people, even though they're still quirky and personality driven, you can see the radiance within everybody, regardless of who they think they are. Tantra believes that there's literally no particle of reality that isn't capable of revealing ecstasy, and that everything that exists is full of light and awareness. Okay, so I would like to do a short practice with you of Guru Yoga. It'll only take about 5 minutes. You can do this in a longer version on your own. And once again, in no way does this depend upon you having a guru with quotes around somebody that you're following. You do what he or she says. It's not like that. Okay. So please prepare by sitting quietly, feeling some posture, spine straight, and begin to generate open-heartedness, bodhicitta, loving kindness, compassion. Open your heart in whatever way works easiest, most directly for you. And then visualize in the sky in front of you the root guru. It might be Christ, it might be Buddha, it might just be a generic being of light that is a representation of your own true self. And when we say visualize, it's not just a pretty picture in the mind, but it's a reification of what is actually happening, that this wholeness, this presence is always, always there right in front of us and all around us. It's not a visualization, it's in a way opening our eyes to truth. What does it feel like to be in this presence? And you can then invoke this presence. You can say a prayer or a mantra. Let me receive your love. Let me bathe in this presence. Or maybe you have a mantra or a prayer that you say already. Letting this invocation deepen this sense of immediate, direct, naked relationship. And then offer a visualized offering, flowers, fruit, incense, offering something to the guru. In a sense, we're offering ourselves. We're offering our impurity. We're offering our purity. We're offering everything, represented as a flower, as a stick of incense. Deepening your devotion, requesting blessings for realization. You're asking to realize your inherent wholeness. That the guru is the complete manifestation of. And then beginning to receive the blessings, visualize light or nectar pouring from the guru into your body, into your heart, into your throat, into the crown of your head, being filled with his blessing, being filled with his presence. Purifying the mind, purifying speech, purifying the body. And then the guru melts into light and merges into your heart. Resting in non-dual awareness beyond thoughts. If thoughts come, just rest in the space in which the thoughts arise. And then finally, we dedicate all the merit, all the virtue of this practice, dedicating it to the liberation of all beings, including yourself. May all beings be free. You and the beloved become one. Coming back into the room, resting in this spaciousness. So from this space, if anger arises, there might be a very different relationship with it. Because the heart is now realized to be so much vaster, in fact, boundless. Where there is faith, there is the Guru. This grace is, the grace of the Guru is like an ocean. If you come with a cup, you get a cupful. The bigger the vessel, the more you'll be able to carry. When I came to Maharaji, I came with a vessel. It was a sieve. And he would pour love into it. It would go right out the bottom. The holes were my unworthiness, my assumed inadequacy. It's a big leap to go beyond inadequacy and realize that we are whole, that the Guru is not only something outside, but it is also our true nature. And from this standpoint, then, seeing other people as a manifestation of that is a very natural outpouring of this sense of internal love and spaciousness. It's really, in a way, the faith to become nobody, so that there's nobody to get lost in anger. There's nobody to feel inadequate. The process of transmuting outer devotion. I'm loving a Guru who is out there, who is greater than I, and I feel such gratitude that this being will shower grace on me, to a tantric devotion where we realize that there's that level, but there's also that I am that and everybody around me is that. Anger is that. So in Tantra, you and the beloved become one. And the beloved is everybody. So then seeing everybody as the beloved is just this, once again, this very natural expression of what we've realized. I can't stay there all the time. I still get caught. And when I watch what's going on politically and environmentally, even though it's clear that many people are and many more people will suffer because of things that other human beings are causing to happen in the world, less and less do I get caught in anger and sadness. I feel anger and sadness. I can act from anger and sadness, but not being lost in it, not repressing, not getting lost in, having an equanimous mindfulness of the experience and of the experiencer, being very balanced, being able to be with the grief of the world, to let people express their grief, not get lost in it. Until we can be with the grief of the world, we really can't love somebody fully. We can't be a full support for another human being. Okay, let's open this up for discussion.
This is shockingly timely because I did not come here sitting down expecting you to address the anger that I got lost in this week. Yeah. And I hurt someone's feelings and they didn't deserve it. And I of course was right. I knew what I was saying and I was right. And hurt this person's feelings. So he became aggressive and I escalated and off we were going on that trip. It's been a few days and I've sort of unwound a bit to not being so right all the time, or not mattering that much whether I was not knowing how to restore the balance between the experience and the experiencer, and perhaps help some healing of the person that I hurt, if he will allow me to do that, which I don't know. So that's what I wanted to say.
Okay. Well, first of all, it's very healthy that you realize all this and you seem to feel some compassion for this other human being and even for yourself. And you say he didn't deserve it. And that's a kind of a interesting notion.
Maybe, well, he just made a mistake. He made a mistake is all.
Okay, but maybe nobody deserves anything, and yet it's his job to deal with his part of it, right? If he's getting hurt, is his feelings are being hurt, that's his job to deal with hurt feelings. Not that that gives you the right to wildly go around trampling on people's feelings, but in working with people who are approaching death again and again and again, I try to remember, I don't often say this to the client directly, but suffering is only suffering. Suffering is grace. And if your friend is suffering because of something you did or said, that's his job to see why he's suffering. There's a difference between pain and suffering. And you can say something that's painful, that causes him pain. And if he suffers, that means he's lost in the pain and that he's got work to do there. And if he wants to be free enough, then that love your enemy thing, that's not only goes for you, it goes for him. Right?
Mm-hmm.
We can't force or assume other people are as committed to the truth as we are. But yet everybody is on this path, whether they know it or like it or not. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. So certainly in retrospect, you can do some Tonglen practice or some loving kindness practice for your friend.
I have a question about that. I spent much of my life doing practices and believing or imagining that they had an impact on the person I was doing it for.
Right.
Yeah. And come to find out many years later that they didn't feel it. And yes. I spent many years thinking that by concentrating on the love in my heart, without expressing it in a real, tangible, physical, personal way, that I was somehow healing the relationship. And I didn't actually succeed in healing the relationship that way.
Okay, well, there's this concept in Buddhism of emptiness, which really means it's kind of a weird translation of the word shunyata, that really means everything is completely interconnected. You and your friend are interconnected. And you feeling loving kindness is at least healing you. And maybe the other person is not karmically ready to change how they feel or behave. That's not up to you, that's up to them. And so many times I've done Tonglen for people, and I have seen a significant change in our relationship. It might be temporary, but again and again, I've seen that. So I really believe I know these practices work. And when you say the other person didn't notice a change, well, once again, that doesn't mean something hasn't changed. Certainly something's changed in you because you're willing to do that. And one of the frustrating things in spiritual life is that a lot of times we or the people around us aren't willing to change right now, right? People hold on to their suffering. People are addicted to suffering. One of the first things in the spiritual path one needs to learn, and one of the most difficult things, is to let go of being addicted to suffering. Because you and I and everybody has a self-image that here's who I am, and part of who I am is somebody who's caught in suffering. And to be this other person means that you have to die. The person you think you are has to die, right? To be this person who's not holding on to, I'm right and you're wrong, or I'm wrong and you're right, or whatever they're holding on to. To let go of that is ego death in the moment. It means becoming a different person. And that's scary. Without a lot of love, without a lot of foundational mindfulness, it's going to be very difficult to do that. When we're meditating, instead of waiting for this moment when there's some rift between you and this other guy, and he's hurt and you're feeling responsible, and on and on and on, when you're meditating and you notice that your mind is distracted, can you in that moment have compassion for the place that's frightened to surrender into the next moment, that needs to hold on to thought as a solidification, a reification of something that's not solid and real? And in that simple moment of learning to die into love, but it's not a big moment. It's happening hundreds, if not thousands of times a day, where you're trusting that letting go into nothingness, particularly like right now, just if you watch your breath, there's this very interesting moment at the end of the out breath. You breathe in, you breathe out. And at the end of the out breath, before you breathed in again, where you've let go, you've essentially died, can you begin to become comfortable with that nothingness? And if you really, really pay attention, probably you're just slightly unconsciously grabbing onto the in-breath to reify things again. To let the out-breath just happen naturally. It's very difficult to breathe naturally, to breathe freely, to let breath be free. Okay. Onward. Yeah, Peter, just one quick second. And I'm even thinking about, as I saw Daniel's face there, and I started thinking about Tsoknyi Rinpoche's shaking hands with difficult emotions, which is a very interesting idea here, where you're not embracing it, you're not making love with anger, but you're at least willing to shake hands. right? That's the place where we're beginning. And that's kind of what I'm even suggesting here with the breath. Peter, please.
Thank you. I really enjoyed your talk now. I, I get that we are always with the big guru. It's a matter of touching in, tapping in, doing the practices to feel that, to trust that, to go ahead with that. I guess that's part of what I'm hearing, and so I've just put that out to check. And the other thing is, thank you for responding in emails to a couple of questions I had in the last couple of weeks. And one thing you said a long time ago, some of these things stay, was that some people need to become rich for a couple of lifetimes or work towards that for a couple of lifetimes. And so that scale is helpful because I lost relationships after my partner died, relationship with her children and grandchildren, and haven't been able to resolve that yet. It helps to have that long view like that. And lastly, my brother is a cable guy, so I appreciate cable guys to some degree. But I heard a joke recently I love. The cable guy, my neighbor, the cable guy, come over and asked me, "What time is it?" And I said, "Sometime between 8 a.m. and 1 p.m.
There you go. Well, the cable guy who comes into the house, he's generally a really nice guy. It's the customer support end of it that I have the hard time with.
And the institution, the big institution. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't remember saying anything about being rich for a couple of lifetimes, but I'll believe you. I guess it's not my turn this lifetime, but whatever. Maybe next lifetime. Who knows?
You helped me. You met one time during my grief support group. And you said, you looked up at the hanging pots and you said, you don't need to live in that house with those hanging pots. And believe me, this may be the best thing that happens to you. And so I am feeling that. And the trust is building in what you're talking about, the tantric connections or something like that.
So now you're living in a car, it looks like?
Just for a few hours. I have a house now. I have a house.
Oh, good. Okay. 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 Anybody else before we take a little short break?
Well, I have something, Dale. I don't know how to raise my hand, though.
Just jump right in there, Sheila.
Well, I had about a year ago, maybe it was more than that, I had an interesting experience with anger. I've always had quite a bit of anger. And I've always felt very ashamed about that. I mean, it's not something that was accepted by certain members of my family.
Right.
So anyway, so I've always, in an effort to kind of not to be, more well-rounded person or whatever, I've always tried to reason with myself, well, this is not something you should be angry about. And then that, basically just creates more guilt and, so on and so forth. And so I was out and a couple of things happened that made me angry. I felt quite a bit of anger and my mind started this thing, well, this is not something that you should be angry about. This is ridiculous. This is minor stuff. Why are you feeling angry? And so I don't, at some point I must have decided just to, let go of that. And I did say something, but in a kind of a calm way. I wasn't embarrassed about it and that was okay. But then the anger just became this energy, and it didn't feel bad at all. I wouldn't say it felt good, but it kind of almost did. I mean, it was very, I wasn't blaming anyone. I wasn't blaming myself. I wasn't even thinking about what it was that I was angry about. It was just this it was just an energy, this kind of energized feeling I had. And I just decided to just kind of, stay with it until, and I mean, it was, I would say it was a good experience, it was a really good experience. And it was kind of a profound experience in a way, because it was just an energy that I was just present with it. I wasn't really thinking about myself or about what caused it or about anything that happened or didn't happen. It was, so anyway, that was kind of a learning experience for me, that experience with anger. And I appreciated it.
So you kind of did what that Miller Rapist story was about. Instead of trying to figure it out or push it away, you surrender to it. This is what anger feels like. And
that's exactly what it felt like. Yeah.
We could really apply what I call the tantric 3-step to anger, which is kind of what you did too. That the steps are, first of all, an embodied mindfulness. Can I really feel anger? What does it feel like? Instead of blaming yourself or whatever. But if in fact you are caught in guilt and shame about feeling angry, then you need to deal with the guilt and shame, right? I mean, we often start out, I'm trying to do this thing, but then these reactions come up and we're still trying to push the reactions away and deal with what we started with. Whereas in fact, the guilt and shame are what's on the plate right now. Embodied mindfulness, here's what anger feels like. It's not about the object. It's not about the mind. This is what it feels like. Can I have compassion for this? Can I open my heart to feeling this right now? And then what's often revealed is this experience is alive. It's energy. It's awakened energy. That in Tantra, all emotions are healing messages because we've gone beyond the mind. But it's an experience from an open heart that allows the surrender. And I mean, in a way, anger is very appealing because it's so alive and passionate. And if we can feel it without attachment and without judgment, then there's plenty to be angry about in this world. And can we use the anger then to protest or to change behavior or, to do things like that? Then, but as you suggested, you and I and a lot of people have an early upbringing where we're made to feel guilty or ashamed if we feel angry.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, literally that basic chi, that basic shakti that we get angry with is the same energy that creates, that meditates, that feels sexual attraction. It's just that energy.
Yeah.
That, in fact, there is a kind of a semi-apocryphal story where if somebody comes to the meditation teacher and says, I've never meditated, I want to meditate. And the teacher says, well, do you get angry a lot? And the person says, I'm almost never angry. The teacher thinks to himself, well, this guy's not going to be much of a meditator, but I'll teach him anyway. But if somebody says, I have a lot of anger, the teacher says, oh, good. Here's somebody I could really work with. Here's somebody that's got the juice. Let's use that juice and let's focus that juice in a useful way here. Thank God for the juice.
Juice is juice.
Yeah.